Welcome back to another SCP Resurrection New Phases Hub reading, dear researcher. Today we'll be reading Shut It Down by Grigory Karpin. Now without further ado, Shut It Down. Site Theta Operations Control.
I don't care that you have operational control, Sophia. We need to get our people out of this site and evacuated right now.
Site Theta, Director James Avery's voice could hardly be distinguished from the blaring containment breach alarm overhead. Sophia Light did not respond at first. She stood next to a security officer hunched over their station, where none of the Alpha 9 members' monitoring sensors were showing anything. Not that they were dead or out of range. The computers seemed not to recognize which sensors were being queried. Sophia straightened and turned to Avery.
My team is trying to solve the situation. James, we need to give them the opportunity to do so.
Sophia looked up at the ceiling in the flashing crimson lights.
Can someone turn off the fucking alarms? We are all aware an emergency is occurring.
The lights reduced in intensity and the klaxons faded to silence. Avery lowered his voice but continued to speak.
We lost their signals one by one more than an hour ago. They're gone, Sophia.
No, there was no loss of life or trauma on the sensors. We just suddenly didn't register them anymore. That doesn't mean they're dead.
Right. But it doesn't mean they're not, and you have to admit it doesn't look good.
Look, James, I was right about the mole, wasn't I? It's time to start trusting my judgment, and the anomaly has stopped expanding, so I disagree. Things do look better than they did. They're having an effect doing whatever.
Avery put his hand on her shoulder.
This isn't about challenging you. It's about getting my people out alive before everything gets worse.
We already evacuated all non-essential personnel.
He shook his hand.
I'm talking to everyone. Security, the researchers studying the anomaly, containment staff, everyone. It's time to go, and we activate the Epsilon Protocol as we leave.
What the hell is that?
We flood the sub-basements and lock down the whole base behind reinforced bunker bulkheads. It's all we have, unfortunately. I don't know if it'll do much, but it's something.
But that means even if they got out...
We don't have any more options, Sophia. Look, I'm giving you another hour, and then I'm taking these people out of here. You can stay if you want.
59:59. Avery walked out of the operations center with a heavy gait. He's given up, she thought. Maybe he has a point. Somewhere else, 4624. Luceredia ran. She ran through universes. She ran along clouds and through glass hallways and across deserts. The scenery changed at such a pace that the violent distortion couldn't even keep up. She just closed her eyes and clutched the stone and felt which direction was the right way. Carlotta yelled from just behind her.
How do you know it's the right direction?
Luceredia turned her head and called back.
Because Stone tells me. Trust.
She turned to check on Raynor. He was breathing hard, but keeping pace with the other two.
You okay?
She called to him. He gave her a thumbs up and moved a little closer as he ran.
Where are we going? And why do we leave 1360?
We going this way.
She grinned at him.
Robot can't come. Orders from Anderson or something.
How's he getting orders from his maker and all this? We can't even call light.
Luceredia shrugged. She felt the rock pull to her left, and she changed directions accordingly. 37:51. They were running down a deserted city street, bright afternoon sun illuminating skeletal corpses in cars or on the cement. Then they were running through a forest in the Pacific Northwest, and they could see a large lizard dragging itself through the trees with dozens of horrible wounds on its body. Then they were running through a futuristic cityscape with two men running across the street, one in a white suit pursuing the other. Then they were running on a beach next to a huge reptilian corpse, burning on the sand. 31:19. But suddenly they were in a misty, dark space without limits. She couldn't clearly see what she was running on. The ground was no longer ground. Panicking, she stopped suddenly, and Carlotta crashed into her from behind. Carlotta bounced off Lucaretti's back and landed on her tailbone painfully. Lucaretti turned around and offered her hand up.
You good?
Carlotta stood with Lucaretti's help and dusted off her backside.
Yeah, just a little warning next time.
Lucaretti looked closer at what they were standing on and found that it was slightly lighter darkness than the surrounding emptiness. She couldn't tell a thing about the surface, just that it was a lighter shade of blackness. The stone glowed in her hands, shining blue-tinted light in a pool around them. The effect was strange. They could see each other, but anything beyond them was inky, misty air. Raynor bent over and braced his palms against his knees.
Haven't had to run like that in a while. How far you think we came? Who knows, Carlotta said. Distances don't make a lot of sense with all this.
She indicated the void around them. Raynor stood straight and rubbed at his eyes. He pointed at the glowing stone.
So, what does it say now?
Lucarettia pointed up in the darkness. Raynor peered into the distance. Slowly, his vision adjusted, and a shape became apparent in the space above him. Hundreds of meters in the air was the thorn. But instead of a few meters, it was kilometers in length. Its silk black surface exuded shadowy mist which filled the horizon.
Well, now what do we do?
Carlotta said. 2241. Site Theta Operations Control. Sophia stared at the monitor in front of the security officer. Come on, give me something.
How much longer do our intrepid agents have until doomsday?
A voice just off her right shoulder startled her. She spun to face Dr. Irving Gatt.
Just around 20 minutes.
There's not much you can do staring at the screen,
Gatt said.
I thought reality was shaped by our perceptions.
That isn't what I meant. Reality isn't a constant quantifiable measure, you see. You can count Humes until the hypothetical cow comes home, but you won't really know how much reality is present at any given moment. All cant counters do is indicate a rapid cycling of conceptual reality, but the expansion, halting even temporarily, is a sign that a fulcrum could be used to wedge reality back into normal scheduled programming.
We already tried to push it back into place. It didn't go very well. We lost 100 anomalies from containment and then the team.
I'm not suggesting we do anything except have a nice cup of tea and wait for Agent Deneb's team to do more leveraging.
You think this is the right time to urge relaxation? I probably just sent these people to their deaths. If they don't do something in the next...
She looked down at the time on the security officer's monitor.
18 minutes, then they'll drown if they even manage to get back.
And yet, they have already managed some positive impact. Despite the impending deadline and knowing their odds are abysmal, I am optimistic that they shall endure.
How do you know any of this? The fulcrum, the anomaly, any of it? You basically just got here, Irving.
I gawp at the unknowable on the regular director light. One gets a taste for irrational processes. It's a matter of perspective. Look between the lines and patterns change.
Somewhere else. The three remaining agents of MTF Alpha 9 stared up at the thorn hovering in the inky space above them. A hum was growing in intensity throughout the air, seemingly from the direction of the monstrous anomaly hanging above them. So, any bright ideas about getting up there? Raynor asked.
Do we want to get up there? Carlotta asked. It's how we came in. Makes sense to get out the same way, Raina responded. It's not how I came in. Then again, I don't really understand what happened. I blinked and I was getting throttled. Luceredia crouched on the inky floor and sat in a squat. Her chest was tight and she felt lightheaded. She cradled the blue diamond against her chest. Carlotta squatted next to her and put a hand on her arm. Are you okay?
So fucking tired. And it's too big. How do we go from here to up there? Just a fighter.
Her voice cracked.
Listen to me.
Carlotta sat right in front of her and put both her hands on Luceredia's shoulders. She pressed her forehead against Luceredia's.
You protected Rainer. You survived against that entity. Just breathe.
How you so fucking calm?
Because I've got you here, and you've got that.
Carlotta pointed to the stone Luceredia clutched to her chest.
It led you right back to this thing, right?
Luceredia nodded and took a deep breath. She closed her eyes and took another. She could feel her chest slowly loosening up. 1649. Luceredia stood and looked around. There was nothing for kilometers that she could see, no structures, no landscape, just mist and shades of black. She turned to Rainer.
What about you? Any tricks?
Rainer shook his head.
I don't think I could materialize anything that would help us here, and I'd be worried about trying. I don't know where I open portals to, but what if being in this place messes with it?
Luceredia nodded. She turned to Carlotta.
Any ideas, leader lady?
Carlotta stood next to her, staring at the rock.
You said it's telling you where to go. How?
It pulls, I follow.
And now it's pulling up there?
Luceredia nodded.
But can't go up there.
How do we know?
What do you mean?
We don't know the rules of this place, or if it's a place at all, right? Who says we can't go up there?
Is pulling away right now. Barely hold on to a stupid rock.
Maybe if we let it go?
Big bad gamble, don't like it.
She held the stone away from her body and gripped it tight. It was vibrating now and trying to pull out of her hands. She was focusing so hard to keep it still, but then she had a thought.
That's crazy, but maybe Carlotta has a point. Who knows how this all works? She kept her grip tight but relaxed her focus on the object a little, and she popped up 1/2 meter in the dark air. Whoa, what just happened? Carlotta asked.
No time, grab onto me.
Both Rainer and Carlotta reached up and took a firm grip on her muscular arms.
Hold on, think light thoughts.
She let go with her mind, and they were soaring. 10:59. The dark, misty air whipped at Luceredia's face as they flew through the abyss. There was no way to tell how fast they were going, but the thorn took up all of her view of the sky within moments.
What are we going to do once we're up there?
Carlotta yelled into Luceredia's ear. The air streaming past them barely let her hear the XUIU agent's words.
When we close enough, you let go.
What?
We gotta win this fight.
I don't care about winning. I care about us living to get home.
You never lived in pits. Survival is all that matters. Surviving to the next fight. Winning is survival.
But
no, trust me. You win in fight by using what weapons you have.
Luceredia nodded at the gleaming blue stone clutched in her hands. Luceredia turned her head and looked into Carlotta's eyes.
You let go when I say, okay?
Carlotta nodded. Luceredia turned to Rainer. He nodded too. They raced through the final distance in silence. Luceredia's eyes and nose and ears hurt from the cold air slicing as they rushed through the sky. The humming was deafening now, the thorn certainly the source. It seemed to vibrate at such a rate that it was noticeable, despite the dim lighting. She focused on the inky expanse of the thorn and could just barely gauge the distance between them and its undulating void.
Now,
Both Carlotta and Raynor let go of her arms, and she focused just a little on holding the stone in place again. They whipped past her and struck the liquid ebony skin of the thorn, passing through without a sound. She hovered less than a meter from its surface, barely preventing the stone from yanking her through. Luceretia's muscles bulged with additional fleshy material as ropes of new tissue and tendons doubled her arm's girth. 0035. She rolled her shoulders, took a deep breath, and took a swing at the thorn with SCP 4867. Raynor came to on dusty, cold concrete. He could feel a pair of hands on him, pulling him to his feet.
It is good to see you, my friend.
SCP 4494 boomed as he pulled Raynor into an embrace.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Raynor turned and saw Carlotta trying to raise from the concrete floor of the sub-basement. Behind her, the thorn was the same size as Raynor had first seen it. Raynor bent down and offered Carlotta a hand. She rose and said,
"Where is she?"
All three turned back to the thorn, its surface rippling violently. They backed away slowly until several meters were between them and the anomaly.
"Come on, Lucy. Where are you?"
An explosion of light and color boomed from the jet-black anomaly. A crack fissured up the side of the thorn, leaking a kaleidoscope of colors, bathing the room. Luceretia popped out of the crack with force. She slammed to the concrete slab and lost her grip on the stone, which skittered away. A wave of pressure and light erupted from the thorn, slamming them all back and cascading outwards from the room, passing through solid mass as easily as a knife through paper. The lights in the room grew dim and the alarms went silent. Emergency lighting powered on and bathed the room in crimson. Raynor stood and looked towards the thorn. It was no longer undulating and had shrunken until it was barely a meter tall. It slowly sank towards the concrete until its tip balanced on the floor, and then was still.
"Lucy!"
Carlotta raced towards the prone Romanian fighter. Luceretia was sprawled out on the floor face down. She crouched down next to Luceretia and put a hand on her back. She placed a finger against her throat, trying to remember how to feel for a pulse.
Stop poking!
Luceretia turned over and brushed Carlotta's hand away. Carlotta was laughing and crying as she helped the other woman to her feet.
"Oh my god, I thought you were dead."
Everything hurts, so not dead.
Luceretia turned and looked at the thorn. It hadn't moved. Its reduced form balanced serenely in the center of the room. Luceretia started laughing.
We did it!
She turned and lifted Carlotta in the air.
We fucking win!
Luceretia set her back down, and Carlotta lunged in for a fierce hug. Luceretia kissed Carlotta on the lips, long and hard. Then she remembered they weren't alone and broke contact, blushing.
Sorry. I should ask next time, no?
Carlotta looked surprised, but didn't pull away. She rested her forehead against Luceretia's and said,
"Yeah, next time maybe ask."
Luceretia smiled and turned to look at Raynor and SCP-4494. They were both staring at them.
What? You'll never see teammates happy after win? Fucking off with it.
Raynor ran over and grabbed them both in a fierce hug.
"Someone should probably call light,"
Carlotta said. And that's all we have for you today, dear researchers. We've got one more part to this, Tangled Web, and then we'll see where we go from there. But thank you very much for coming, dear researchers. It has been an honor reading for you. Good luck out there. I hope to see you next time, and all that good stuff. Make sure to do your work.